I think that we need to start with the conversation, especially because the Florida State game just went final. So we have Michigan, 13-0, 1 seed, right?
Maybe 2.
Washington, maybe 1 seed.
You can. Okay. There's an argument to be made that Washington has a better overall resume
than Michigan based on strength of schedule, number of ranked wins. That's a good debate. Texas 3?
I think so.
Ahead of Florida State or Florida State 3?
Possibly. I'm not sure about the seeds. I think I know who the 4 teams will be, though.
But
I don't know. Like I think probably Washington won, but I don't know if they'll do it. Like that. Normally, I think the committee sticks to kind of a defined ranking, rubric for the last one. I think they make up all this stuff for TV throughout the season, but for the last one, it's pretty predictable. But this is also the last 4-team playoff, and we also have like entire conferences going away, and we have winners of conferences who will no longer be in those conferences. So I don't know what the politicking is going to look like tonight and tomorrow morning in that room. Like I really don't know what's going to happen here. It's going to be interesting. Like Tom was talking before the show, either the games will matter or they won't. We'll find out.
And if the games matter, if you're trying to sell that as something that truly means something in the sport, and your playoff is to determine the national champion, then the 4 teams will be Michigan, Washington, Florida State, and Texas in some order, because 3 of them are undefeated, and Texas beat Alabama, which beat Georgia. So it's pretty cut and dried. But I can't sit here and pretend I know what the people in that room are going to do. Anything is possible. We'll see.
In 2012, when the BCS group of managers got together and agreed upon the formation of the college football playoff, the 4-team format that is now in its 10th season, they dictated that championships won, strength of schedule, head-to-head results, and results against similar opponents are the 4 tenets of how you break ties between comparable teams. If Texas and Alabama have championships that Georgia does not, and Texas beat Alabama and Alabama beat Georgia, then we have a set that has to go Texas, Alabama, Georgia. Right?
Yeah. Georgia's not in this discussion, right? Are we? Maybe my criteria, or I'm misunderstanding what the committee's saying. Like, nobody's really considering Georgia in this, right?
Not after Florida State won tonight. I don't think
Correct.
Georgia has a prayer.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, that is
Texas has the best win of the season, not Alabama.
Yeah, like Texas
beating the SEC champion by double digits in their own house
the road
is better than a field goal win. Yeah, sorry.
That win looks even better after Alabama beats Georgia. Like that win improves even more. So yeah, it's the best win of the season. Although it would be hilarious if the committee decides that Alabama beating Georgia is a better win than Texas beating Alabama.
Dude, it's going to be interesting.
What do you think?
What do I think would happen, or what do I think they're going to choose?
Yeah. Do you really think the SEC is going to be left out of the college football playoff in the 2023 season?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. And I mean, here's just you're going to hear a lot of arguing about how Georgia would beat the 4 teams in there and Alabama would beat the 4 teams in there. And to be clear, I think Alabama and Georgia would beat Florida State. I think Alabama and Georgia would beat Michigan. I think Alabama and Georgia could beat Washington. I think Alabama could beat Texas, but didn't. But the point is, what I think will happen has no bearing or should have any bearing, or what anybody thinks would happen should have any impact on who gets chosen, because what's supposed to matter is what has happened. And what has happened is 3 teams finished undefeated and won their conference, and Texas went 1 loss, won its conference, and beat another one of the conference champions. So we'll see. And the SEC will get left out, but now SEC fans get to experience what it's been like to be a fan of any other team in any other conference for the entirety of the BCS and the college football playoff, going to bed the night before, not sure you're going to get in. It's not as fun when the rabbit's got the gun.
Well, the SEC could have taken care of business in the non-conference, right? And not ducked teams and not lost out-of-conference games that it normally wins. Like, you could tell me the SEC is the best league this year. I don't really think that is incorrect. But it's not the best league by a mile.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's much closer to the other leagues than normal. Last year ain't this year, right? Last year, Georgia had big-time defensive linemen on the middle of that defense. Guess what? They play for the Eagles now. I don't really care that Georgia won the title last year, right? What did you do this year? How did your league stack up this year? It's this year's title. We're not playing for the title of the decade.
So I'm not saying anything that wasn't said on very big stages. But since this is the Cover 3 podcast, and since I did say it all day, even before all these other posers who are obviously watching CBS Sports HQ said it, my thought Friday night is that this is exactly why your "what would the spread be" argument is totally in the grave right now. Because Washington was a 9.5-point underdog, and they were up 10-0. They were at what, 17-3, right?
Yeah.
Or 21. Yeah, they won.
It was 20-3. Yeah, they were up 20-3 at one point.
They were up 20-3 at one point, and they won. And they won the Pac-12 championship. Alabama was an underdog of nearly a touchdown. Things moved down. I think it was 5.5 by the time we actually closed. But that is an underdog. In fact, this conference championship weekend had more underdog success than we have seen in most conference championship weekends. So miss me with the idea that just because a power rating or Vegas says that a team that is going to be left out of the college football playoff when they announce it on Sunday morning, just because they would be favored on a neutral field in the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl against a team that got in, does not matter. And so I hear Kirby Smart when he's like, when Bill Hancock, the executive director, you know, like everybody's invoking the name of Bill Hancock just because he's the executive director, outgoing executive director, by the way, invoking his name as though like his word is gospel. I heard our friend Josh Pate. He was, because Josh did a good job, and you know, classic Josh, like he did a good job of both like presenting every side of the argument within the context of explaining it. And he said, if we are to take this as gospel, then this. I might have an issue with it, but this. I don't think we take Bill Hancock's word as gospel because he's not on the freaking committee.
Yeah.
All right. So look, the games, this has been said everywhere. The games have to matter. Right? Like,
do they? I don't know. Like watching the broadcast tonight, it seems like they don't matter.
Washington beat Oregon as a 9.5-point underdog. Alabama beat Georgia as an underdog. Like, do not trot out these spread. Like, shoot, Florida State was only a 1.5-point favorite. They won that game by 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, these power ratings and these potential like Vegas point spreads should not determine how we decide the national championship. There have been so many years in college football's history where the like big air quotes in our tiny little box here with my hotel room set up, best team isn't in the like BCS national championship. And why are they not there? Because you corked it. Because you messed up. Because you didn't win every single one of your games. And if you are a team that wins every single one of your games, like Michigan did, like Washington did, like Florida State did, then you get a shot at the national championship.
And I mean, the other thing too, like this year, the SEC didn't do as well in non-conference. Had the SEC done its typical job in non-conference this year and just beat the hell out of everybody like it normally does, Alabama's probably in the top 4, but they didn't this year. And I feel like a lot of SEC fans and SEC media types just aren't used to being in this position, and they're kind of just like, oh, there's no way they could leave us out. Like even Saban said, you can't leave the SEC out of the playoff. Why not? There is no rule within the selection committee that says the SEC is guaranteed an automatic berth. The SEC champion gets a spot in the tournament. There's nothing there that says it has to happen. The SEC can be left out of the playoff, just like the Pac-12 has been left out, like the Big 12 has been left out, the Big 10 and the ACC. You're no different than anybody else. You've just been better than everybody else.
Except for this year.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Alabama's AD grumbling about maybe we won't schedule these non-conference games. You know who's really happy they scheduled a non-conference game? Texas.
Yeah.
Because they won that non-conference game. I bet you Texas is damn thrilled that they played Alabama and they whipped them in their house. Like, look, I completely get it as far as we think the networks run the sport. Like, does Florida State look as good now as they did with Jordan Travis? Clearly not. Did their offense look any worse tonight than Michigan's looked? Not really.
Slightly, but not much.
I mean, yeah, I honestly, Michigan scored on a 9-yard drive after a fumble and a punt return to the 2.
Yeah, they're 2 touchdown drives for 11 total yards.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not really 100% sure FSU is going to be in, right? I don't know what they'll do. Precedent, does it matter if this whole thing is going away, if all the conferences are blown up? I really don't know what they'll do. Like, they may just throw precedent of taking the most deserving teams, which is what they do every year, basically. They may just throw it out the window. What might help FSU here is it was their third stringer, right? And you get to say, hey, a lot of guys on that defense are going to be drafted, right? You get a month for Keon Coleman to heal up, right? You get Bell to heal up. Like, he was like basically a non-factor tonight. So you get your backup in, not your third stringer. That's, I think, an argument that will probably be presented there within the committee. We'll see. Like, to Tom's point, though, if we just went chalk, if we just went power ratings, Ohio State doesn't beat Miami in the Fiesta Bowl, right? Michigan plays Georgia last year for the national title. Oh, wait, no, we let TCU in, which is something everybody wants to point to as such an egregious mistake. Guys, TCU won the first round game. Like, we don't really, we can predict this sport decently, not perfectly. That's kind of what makes it fun.
Yes.
I will say there is one precedent they could set if they leave Florida State out. And that is, you can never claim again that the games matter if you're going to throw out a 13-0 conference champion's entire season. Because, again, I understand Florida State does not look as good as it did earlier in the year. But the fact it was still able to win the last 2 games of the season, including its ACC championship game, with a third-string quarterback doesn't mean they suck. It's typically a sign that they're good. Like,
they had to put a knee brace on him.
In the past, when we've seen Ohio State win with backup quarterbacks, or Alabama benches Jalen for Tua, or the other way around, it's a sign of how great they are. But for some reason now, when the SEC is staring at the abyss of not being in the playoff, it's a sign of how bad you are if you need your backup quarterback to win a game. It's just, it's incredible the kind of loops and double standards we put on different teams based on their conference.
Anything else? Because I mean, I was just about to jump into it. I mean, obviously we just came off of it. Like, I've got flowers for Tatum Bethune. I've got flowers for Braden Fisk. I've got flowers for Jared Verse. Like, the dudes that were just carrying that Florida State and Florida State's playoff hopes. You want to go ahead and get into that, or anything else on the, because here's the deal. We're going to be back with you at 12:15 p.m. Eastern time. They are the show to announce the college football playoff matchups is going to be at noon Eastern time. We are going to be live at youtube.com/cover3 at 12:15 p.m. Eastern time, breaking down those matchups, analyzing the decisions. So we're going to have some time to do that. Anything else on just sort of the general conundrum that we have right now before we get into the actual games?
Do you think they care if the games matter?
We'll find out. I mean,
because with going to the 12-team playoff, we'll have more auto bids with conference champions, right? So you may not have this situation. Like, the 4-team, I don't want to get into it's like, was it the right number? Was it the wrong? My argument was always like, this type of scenario could happen, and it's not a good thing for the sport. Like, 4, I'm fine with going back to 2. I just thought 4 was a uniquely poor number for the construct of the
Oh
sport.
yeah, you were
that
in
we
that since
have.
like SB Nation, right? Like since
Yeah, I'm like 2 is fine, 6 is fine, 8 is fine, 12 is fine, 4 is uniquely bad for reasons that we don't need to get into tonight. Do they care? Like they may not care if the games matter, right? It's a TV product and they rig it. Okay, I if you tell me that, I buy it. We'll see.
it might take a little bit of time for us to get all the way back to Friday night, which seems like a year ago to me. But I doubted Washington at like every step. They played 7 straight 1-score games, but they won 7 straight 1-score games. They're entering this college football playoff. And you know what? We'll see what the matchup is. I might be a doubter again, but they deserve a shot at the national championship. And like the Washington argument, the Florida State argument, like this is why college football is so unique, why the drama of every single Saturday has so many people investing in us, right? Like we appreciate all of the, you mentioned everyone sharing their Spotify Wrapped, and we're getting a lot of like love, and we really do like it. It is overwhelming to like actually see the people that have enjoyed the Cover 3 podcast during this season. And we hope that we're going to continue to deliver this product for you. But the reason why everyone's invested is because it's special, because the games matter, because showing up on a Saturday night and listening to an instant reaction show is not just like a ho-hum thing, because every single game carries some significance for the teams that are trying to be. Maybe you're competing for a national championship. Maybe you're trying to get to a bowl. Maybe you're trying to beat your rival. Like there's so many different levels of what you could go for that it casts a wide net and people care. Games have to matter, man. Have to. It's like key to the soul of the sport.
It's been the foundation of my concern about the playoff from the very start.